knowing that audio was probably going to come out along with additional tapes, whether they be video or audio is unclear at this particular moment in time, Shannon Sharpe felt compelled to come out in his own defense. In my perfect world, he moves on. And somehow, some way, we find this all to be false. But it doesn't seem like that's the way things are about to go down, considering who Mr. Busby is.
Stephen A. Smith is having the time of his life right now because Shannon Sharpe just got the boot from ESPN. Sources are spilling that Shannon's not only out for good, he might already be blacklisted from the whole network after 3 more women came forward with some seriously disturbing claims. And guess what? Shannon isn't exactly getting showered with love either. A lot of folks are saying he's getting exactly what he deserves. This whole mess is one of the wildest, dirtiest scandals we've seen in a hot minute. In case you missed it, Shannon was out here acting like a sugar daddy for an OnlyFans model, a girl so young she could pass for his granddaughter. And he really thought he was the one calling the shots.
Yeah, I might choke you in public. Big black guy chokes small white woman.
But nah, Shannon got played like a straight-up rookie by this teenager. And it wasn't just about the money either. The situation took a sick turn when receipts popped up, showing he was involved in some twisted race play that had the whole internet gagging in disgust. And that's not even the worst part. When the receipts dropped, it wasn't just text. There were audio clips too, catching Shannon talking about how he wanted to choke this woman out in public. Wild doesn't even begin to cover it. It's safe to say Shannon's reputation is cooked, totally beyond saving now.
Sharing text messages, that's just sharing too much. We didn't want to hear about nobody getting hogtied in your bedroom and your salad getting tossed while you wearing a collar. It's too much.
And here's the kicker. Shannon already tried to throw millions at the woman to keep her quiet before this whole thing exploded. He knew the skeletons were rattling louder than ever. But this girl, she was playing the long game all along, and now the whole world's seeing just how messy and reckless Shannon was moving. Now, instead of getting sympathy, the public, including Stephen A. Smith, is straight up roasting Shannon for being almost 60 and still out here chasing OnlyFans models with zero self-control. Even Cat Williams and Monique allegedly warned him, telling him straight up that these young girls will set you up if you're not careful. But Shannon, he didn't want to hear it. He was just sitting there giggling like it was all a joke. And now look, he's losing millions, his TV deals, and what little dignity he had left.
Race play, Shannon Sharpe? Race play? I don't even want to talk about this, but the more videos I scroll past talking about Shannon Sharpe and this relationship that he had with this 19-year-old, and honestly, I was just assaulted by this information. I didn't know anything about it, and I'm scrolling, minding my business, and I see a deluge of text messages that he released from this girl that are weird and with an obvious race fetish. And it's not just her with the race fetish. He obviously was turned on by these conversations as well, and he only released what she was saying. Put a big black baby in me. Oh my gosh, I can't believe. I wouldn't be surprised if she was calling him the N-word during coitus. He's into that. And if this man is turned on sexually by being racialized in such a weird way.
Meanwhile, Stephen A. Smith is somewhere cracking up, even though he tried to act like he feels bad for Shannon. Please, you can see he's loving every second of this mess. And trust, the story's about to get even crazier, and we're just getting started. So here's where it really gets messy. Shannon Sharpe just lost his ESPN bag, and right now, it's looking real bad for him. Now, if you didn't know, ESPN ain't just some random sports channel. It's majority owned by Disney. Yeah, that Disney. The same Disney that screams family values, squeaky clean content, and protecting the brand at all costs.
Grateful I'm not 56 and trying.
But you tried to say what you tried to say.
I'm looking right at you.
I know you looking at your
I ain't backing down. You don't need no 26-year-old girl. You don't need no 36-year-old girl.
I know.
This is your auntie talking to you. Take your and get your old out there that can love you old. You trying to hang out with these young and you can't do it, Shannon. You just can't do it.
So when Shannon's dirty laundry came flying out, the lawsuits, the leaked texts, and those nasty race play accusations, Disney didn't waste a second cutting ties. And look, ESPN has handled scandals before, but this? The huge lawsuit, the 19-year-old OnlyFans drama, and the twisted race play allegations? It was just way too dirty for Disney to even try cleaning up.
All of us have someone to answer to. No matter how maverick we try to be, and we own our own business, and we're our sole proprietors like I am on this platform and stuff like that. There are advertisers, there are sponsors, there are people you do business with, there are partners, and there are bosses.
Shannon really thought he could sweep all this under the rug, but when you're mixing race, scandals, and serious accusations into the pot, that's a full-blown PR disaster nobody's touching. On April 24th, Shannon dropped a statement claiming he was temporarily stepping away from his ESPN duties, adding that he planned to be back when the NFL preseason kicked off. Shannon tried to make it sound like this was his choice, but sources inside ESPN are telling a whole different story.
Shannon Sharpe is somebody I work with a couple of days a week. Shannon Sharpe is somebody that I brought to ESPN. To be clear, even though this podcast, this YouTube show is owned and operated by me solely, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be dismissive of ESPN, who employs me in my daytime job on First Take. So I sit here before you today letting you know that they are aware that this is a subject that I was going to broach, because I owe them that courtesy. I am the executive producer of First Take on ESPN. I recruited Shannon. I went and got him and brought him to ESPN. But I'm not the boss. Those are other folks. There are layers to this, and there are certain layers even I am not on. I can tell you, I also spoke to co-chairman of Disney, the boss, Jimmy Pitaro, who made it very, very clear we are taking this matter very seriously, and we are looking into this very, very closely. In my perfect world, he moves on. And somehow, some way, we find this all to be false. But it doesn't seem like that's the way things are about to go down, considering who Mr. Busby is and how emphatic his client is proclaiming that she is right, that she's telling the truth. I have no idea what direction ESPN and Walt Disney will go in when it comes to this matter. All I do know is it won't be me making a decision. It'll be others upstairs. In the end, all of us have someone to answer to. No matter how maverick we try to be, and we own our own business, and we're our sole proprietors like I am on this platform and stuff like that. There are advertisers, there are sponsors, there are people you do business with, there are partners, and there are bosses.
According to insiders at the network, Shannon didn't walk out. He got pushed out. ESPN apparently gave him the grace to save face and act like he left on his own. But behind closed doors, they were done with him. And now, insiders are spilling that Shannon is unofficially banned from ESPN for good. Word on the street is ESPN doesn't even want Shannon's name mentioned around them anymore. They're scrubbing him clean from the brand moving forward. Meanwhile, Stephen A. Smith couldn't resist jumping into the drama. Stephen, who's not just a commentator but also an executive producer on First Take, hit his platform acting all concerned for Shannon. Stephen gave this big speech about how he feels bad for what Shannon's going through. But if you really listen close, it was like Stephen was already giving a eulogy for Shannon's career.
Bowl champion and this Hall of Famer who emphatically stated to me over the phone how innocent he is of these allegations that have been levied against him, insisting repeatedly that anything you read, anything you see, anything you hear was fully and totally consensual. In the same breath, what's inescapable is that without us knowing all the merits, he was working with Disney, where I've worked since 2003, excluding my departure from 2009 to 2011, when I was gone for those 2 years. Outside of that, I've been at Disney since October of 2003. I know this place. I know the worldwide leader that is ESPN, who's under the umbrella of Disney. And it wasn't difficult for me to figure out what was transpiring. They didn't need any definitive evidence at this particular moment in time about all of that stuff. Once all the things Shannon Sharpe's lawyer put out there. It was uncomfortable to listen to, and it was not something that Walt Disney once associated with its brand. So to have him on the airwaves while all of that stuff was put out there was not something that Disney was going to take. That is what I mean when I say I'm not surprised.
But Stephen didn't stop there. After the news broke about Shannon stepping away, Stephen went back on air and kept hammering the same point, reminding everybody that Disney doesn't play about their image. He made it real clear. Once Disney labels you a liability, it's over. No second chances, no mercy. Certain moves bring certain consequences, and Shannon just found that out the hard way. Stephen also threw some serious shade, hinting that Shannon leaking those text messages from the OnlyFans model only made things worse for himself. Just seeing those messy receipts was all Disney and ESPN needed to say, yeah, we're done with you. Stephen even low-key dragged Shannon for being so reckless at his big age, running around like he was untouchable. And in the end, he got played by a 19-year-old, fumbled his bag, trashed his reputation, and crushed any future shot at success, all because he couldn't keep his urges in check. Now, Stephen tried to act slick, saying he wasn't talking directly about Shannon, but about people who think they're above the law and don't answer to nobody. But come on, everybody knows Stephen was looking dead at Shannon when he said it. Fans picked up on it quick too, and that's why so many are saying they got zero pity for Shannon right now. The truth is, Shannon's way too grown to still be out here moving this sloppy. This is the same guy who loved preaching his grandma's wisdom to everybody.
Don't want to walk around thinking you can do what you want to do when you want to do it. You could your own operation. You don't have to answer to anybody. That's not true. I've had people open their mouth and they've said, Stephen A., you work for ESPN. What kind of control do you really have? This is my podcast. This is my YouTube show. I own this. But if you think for 1 second that I can just do what I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it, and there's not going to be any repercussions, you're clueless. And you're destined to fail and fall on your face. Some people sit up there and they look at me and they say, Stephen A. don't get himself in this kind of trouble. How does he pull it off? Well, first of all, there's certain behaviors and proclivities that you never have to worry about me engaging in. But most importantly than that, I often say this about Walt Disney. I'd rather work for a place with standards than one looking for them.
But clearly, he wasn't listening to a word she said. And guess what? It wasn't just his grandma trying to steer him right. Remember when Cat Williams sat down on Club Shay Shay last year and straight up warned Shannon that messing around with young white women could get him caught up in serious drama? Well, turns out Cat was dead on. because based on the lawsuit's timeline, Shannon was already knee-deep with that OnlyFans model when Kat gave him that warning. And not long after Kat's interview went viral, Monique also pulled up to Club Shay Shay and gave Shannon some real advice, telling him straight up he needs to settle down with a woman his own age and leave those wild age gap relationships alone. She wasn't playing either.
And just one more thing about Mr. Sharpe. Not so sharp, clearly. It is my theory, just my opinion, my theory, not fact, my opinion. I think all of this RACE rhetoric that was in those text messages started with him. It started with him. It's becoming more and more clear to me, in my opinion, that he has a race fetish. He has a fetish for that type of dynamic. Think about it. This was a 19-year-old white woman when he met her. I don't know any 19-year-old white woman that's running around hollering about a big black baby and baby gravy. Shannon was a 54-year-old big black grown man from the backwoods of Georgia. Gravy sound like he's familiar with. Big black babies, he probably seen a few in his day. Born in the backwoods of Georgia where he grew up with his grandma and all the other folks. But I just don't think that came from her. Now, is she repeating it back in those text messages? Yes. That's why he released her messages, not his. Peep that. Okay? We haven't seen what his responses was. And I guarantee you, when they post those messages, y'all gonna see. All of that race started with him. It's a fetish. And he could only play that kind of stuff out with a young girl. He couldn't, like Monique was trying to tell him, get an older gal. Older gal ain't going for that. They was going to immediately knew he was a freak and a weirdo. A 19-year-old don't know no better. That's why she repeated it back to him, because he said it to her first. Older men, that's why they tend to want to be with younger women. They're more impressionable. They can mold them. They can shape them to be what they want them to be. Do what they want them to do. You let him come to a 40 or 50-year-old woman talking about put a big black baby and baby gravy. We gonna be looking like, what's wrong with you? Yeah, that started with him. Mark my words. It's gonna come out. But that race stuff started with Shannon.
But you want to hear something even crazier? There's a clip going viral right now where Shannon straight up says he'd go to hell for $50 million. Well, looks like the devil was tuned in loud and clear, because his accuser, Gabriela Zuniga, is now suing him for exactly $50 million. And listen, it's not just the creepy age gap that's making this a whole mess. Based on her lawsuit and the text Shannon himself dropped, it looks like Shannon was into some seriously twisted bedroom games, including race play, and insiders are saying it was Shannon who specifically requested all the nasty racially charged role play. That's not something that just happened by accident. Basically, this girl was acting like a paid ex-worker, doing what she was paid to do. But somewhere down the line, things went completely left. Whether Gabriela had a setup plan from the jump, or whether she pulled back her consent and Shannon didn't respect it, either way, it's a terrible look for him. Now here's where it gets even messier. We know Shannon was dropping serious cash, because in one of the texts he released, Gabriela mentions Shannon paying $25,000 for each cheek. Yeah, you read that right. But that's not even the nastiest part. Gabriela was also sending Shannon some bizarre texts, like telling him she wanted him to put up, and even saying she wanted to put her tongue in him. The whole situation is straight up wild, and no matter how you spin it, Shannon's looking worse by the minute.
Sharpe, we want out of the group chat now. Like right now, because it's getting disgusting and you need to act your age. First, we had to hear the audio from when you accidentally went live that absolutely nobody asked for. We could have went our whole lives without hearing that. Then you started doing infomercials about ED pills. And now you sharing text messages that's just sharing too much. We didn't want to hear about nobody getting hogtied in your bedroom and your salad getting tossed while you wearing a collar. It's too much. At what point do you say you just too old? Be like that old grandfather that every time he come around, he want to tell you about all the women he got. And when everybody else is talking, he want to talk like he's still in his 20s and he hanging out with the young folks. Pack it up. You just too freaked out at your old age. And we don't want to know about, we truly don't want nothing to do with it. Please, why didn't you just share that in the courts? Share it with the lawyers. Why did we need to see that?
Now, it's pretty clear this 19-year-old wasn't really feeling Shannon like that. She was most likely just doing what she was paid to do. And peep this, Shannon only dropped the texts she sent him, but somehow left out his own side of the convo. Real convenient, right? That's why fans are connecting the dots now and starting to believe that all the wild stuff Gabriella said was because Shannon was the one pushing for all that sick race play talk in the first place. Now, whether the whole thing between Shannon and Gabriella stayed consensual from beginning to end, or whether it spiraled into something darker, that's for the courts to figure out. But what's already clear is Shannon looks bad, real bad, caught up in this whole mess. Especially after Gabriella's lawyer, Tony Busby, dropped a bombshell audio clip where Shannon is literally heard threatening to choke her out, and even saying he'd do it in public. Like, what? Now, the whole recording is mad weird, because on one hand it sounds like they're both role-playing, but it also feels like Gabriella was baiting Shannon to say crazy stuff. And the worst part? Shannon sounds like he's actually into it, which is making him look even weirder. Even if Gabriella was setting a trap, the fact that Shannon walked right into it with zero hesitation is just wild. Fans are saying Shannon can't blame anybody but himself. He's almost 60 and still getting played by a 19-year-old like he didn't know better. Like she wasn't gonna flip the script and use everything against him the moment it suited her. The lack of self-control and common sense here is mind-blowing, honestly. And to make it worse, Shannon tried to play the successful black man being targeted card, comparing himself to Jay-Z and claiming Tony Busby only goes after rich black men. Now, even if Shannon has a point about Tony Busby chasing successful black men, that doesn't change the fact that he walked himself right into this disaster with his own reckless behavior. People online are dragging Shannon left and right, saying he's got no business trying to pull the black man card right now, especially after he literally engaged in race play. Like, how are you gonna cry about being racially targeted when you paid a white woman to degrade you in some sick, twisted racial role play? Make it make sense. And it gets worse. Shannon tried to jump ahead of the narrative by warning everybody that Tony Busby was planning to release part of a private tape that would play into every stereotype about black men. But fans aren't feeling sorry for him. They're saying Shannon himself played into those exact same ugly stereotypes. And now he wants to act like he's the victim? Nah, it's not flying. Shannon went from paying a white woman to racially humiliate him, to suddenly begging for pity because he's a black man being unfairly targeted. It's a mess, and honestly, his whole community cause is falling flat. Fans are not buying the sob story. They're out here flooding social media with memes, jokes, and wild comments about the entire race play situation. And about those text messages Shannon thought would clear him? Yeah, they backfired big time. Fans are pointing out this ain't even the first time Shannon's been caught moving weird. His whole victim act is looking faker by the minute. But now it's your turn. How do you feel about this whole crazy situation surrounding Shannon Sharpe? Is he really just a victim who got caught up, or did he bring this whole disaster on himself? And what about ESPN cutting him loose? Do you think Disney made the right move kicking him to the curb? Drop your thoughts down below in the comments. And don't forget, like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your crew, and I'll catch you on the next one.